Hello, and welcome to the Pinewood Derby Car Building Workshop. Even if you are not in Pack 736, located in beautiful Glen Allen, Virginia, this presentation can help any scout, adult, or hobbyist build their Pinewood Derby car. So let's jump right in. The main goal of this workshop is to help scouts do their best. Being competitive, doing your best, and demonstrating good sportsmanship are all scouting qualities, and the Pinewood Derby is designed to teach these values. It is also a learning process that can be difficult and frustrating, especially for the parents. But remember how important it is for your scout first. If you are a parent, constantly ask yourself if you are helping or doing. Helping scouts learn all the skills to build great cars is perfectly acceptable, but they should be doing as much of the work as possible. For the scouts, if your parents or guardians are doing too much, or you want to do more on your own, all you have to do is say so. Here's a scout demonstrating the technique.
Mom, Dad, this is my car. If you want one, you can go and buy one from the scout shop.
Now that everyone knows who is building the cars, let's look at the materials. Pack 736 issues official BSA Pinewood Derby car kits to each scout member for free and sells them for a nominal fee to non-scouts and parents who want to compete in the open class races. In each kit is a block of wood, 4 wheels, 4 axles, those are the nails, a set of number decals, and a sheet of instructions. If your kit does not have all these parts, contact your den leader or Pinewood Derby race official for a new kit. Before getting further, a quick note about the instruction sheet. It is helpful, but it is also outdated. The Pack's Derby rules, or those for any supervised race, supersede the kit's instruction sheet. Make sure you have the Pack Derby rules handy before going further. Speaking of rules, the first one to know is that Pack 736 requires all cars to use primary materials only licensed by the Boy Scouts of America. The primary materials are the core block of wood, the axles, and the wheels. There are a couple official producers of kits and parts, including Revell, so look for the official BSA license logo before making purchases. During the inspection process, race officials will disqualify a car if the official BSA kit primary parts are not used. Parts used for decorative purposes or to add weight, which we will talk about in a moment, can come from any source. Contact one of your Derby officials if in doubt about any part of your planned finished car. Now that we know what's in the kit and can be added, it's important to know all the regulations about size. Except for the weight limit, which is set to keep that ever-pesky playing field even, all the other requirements are related to making sure the car fits the racetrack properly. If cars are too wide, they would be banging into each other. If too long, they would fall off the starting block, and so on. All these measurements are checked by Derby race officials during inspection, so make sure they are correct on your car. After measurements, the two most common questions asked are about the wood block, and they are, do I have to use the axle grooves, and which way is front? The answer to the first question is yes. The pre-cut axle grooves must be used to qualify for Pack 736's Pinewood Derby. Here are a few tips about them. First, the distance between the inside of the wheels must be exactly 1 3/4 inches. This is the width of the block of wood, so it is best to leave the material around the axle areas intact. Second, you need to leave enough wood to hold the wheel axles, the nails in other words, in place and under pressure. During races, cars have been known to jump the track and crash, putting enough force in the wheels to bend the metal nails and split the wood. It is advisable to leave at least 1/4 inch of wood on all sides to make sure a crash won't take a car out of the race. Third, after you paint your car, it is a good idea to use a drill and a bit that is the same size or slightly smaller than the diameter of the nails to clear out the axle grooves. If not done, there is a chance the wood will split when installing the axles. This is because paint usually pools up in the grooves and the wood swells from the moisture, making the pre-cut slots narrower than originally designed. Remember, you are not drilling out new holes, only clearing the existing pre-cut groove. Last but not least, builders will want to consider using a water-based glue to hold their axles in place. Using industrial adhesives like super glue or Gorilla Glue might seem smart at first, but if a car crashes and bends an axle, the builder won't be able to remove it without damaging the rest of the car. Water-based glue, on the other hand, can be softened up with the application of a drop or two of water which will allow the axle to be replaced fairly quickly with little effort and no damage to the car body. So now that you know all the neat stuff about the axle grooves, how do Scouts determine which way is front on the block of wood? That is one of the fun things to figure out because it's completely up to the builder. Some cars have long hoods and short trunks, while others are just the opposite. Builders are encouraged to experiment and to be creative. Those are the basic requirements for the cars. So let's look at ways to make them perform better. The four most important factors to consider are weight, friction, aerodynamics, and luck. By and far, maximizing the weight of a car is the most important building tip. According to science, adding weight increases a car's potential energy at the starting line, which is transferred into kinetic energy as gravity pulls it down the track. In other words, a heavier car will go faster and further than a light one. Now, in order to keep the playing field even, all race cars are limited to a maximum weight of 5 ounces. Because the wood block, wheels, and axles are only about 3 ounces total, most Scouts add weight to their cars so they meet the 5-ounce maximum. Weight can be added in any way as long as the car still meets all the other requirements such as length restrictions. One important thing to remember is that cars must weigh 5 ounces or less according to the official impound scale. That means you should design a small portion of the car weight to be easily removed or added if the car is expected to be light during registration. No matter how many times you tell PAC 736's Derby officials your car weighed 5 ounces at home, the impound scale is the final authority. Now, did you notice the screws on the bottom of these two cars? The Scout who built these used them to increase or decrease his car's weight by 0.2 of an ounce during impound. No matter what race he entered, he knew he would be at the 5-ounce maximum with the simple twist of a screwdriver. There is also a very secret tip about weight that few know about, so be careful not to tell anyone. During impound, PAC 736 uses a scale that measures ounces in 1/10 increments, and it rounds up only when it hits the 0.05 threshold. That means cars weighing 5.049 ounces will only show as 5.0 ounces. How important can that small little bit of weight be? Well, some cars win races by hundredths or even thousandths of a second, so it could make a difference. The hard part is getting a car to pass inspection with that slight bit of a margin. Any Scout trying to do this absolutely needs to plan a way to drop weight just in case the official scale catches the overage. Along with maximizing weight, where to place it is also very important. Remember the science part about potential to kinetic energy? Well, in simple terms, the higher the weight of a car is at the starting line, which is at the back of the car, the more energy it has speeding down the track. Putting all the weight in the back, though, can cause a real problem. Just like a seesaw, if the back of a car is too heavy, it will make the front end flip up and cause it to crash. So where is the ideal place for extra weight? That is something each builder has to tinker with. To determine the sweet spot for optimal speed and control, the car's center of gravity should be about 1/4 of an inch in front of the rear axle. To determine the center of gravity, put a pencil or other slim object under the car with the wheels and axles stacked over their respective locations and any extra weight where you think best. Then move the car forwards and backwards until it is balancing in midair. The pencil is then at the car's center of gravity. To adjust it, move only the additional weight back towards the rear axle and rebalance the car on the pencil. When this balancing act occurs with the pencil just in front of the rear axle, the extra weight is in the sweet spot for optimal speed and control. Then all you have to do is attach everything at those points. Now that weight is understood, let's talk friction. Friction causes cars to slow down when parts rub against each other or the track. We will start by looking at parts rubbing against each other. In order to minimize friction, PAC 736 uses gray graphite to lubricate the wheels. This is applied by race officials before every heat, so use just enough at home to test your car. Then look for and improve the following. First, remove any defects such as burrs from the wheels and axles. Defects are extremely rare to find in the official BSA kits today, but still inspect all the parts. Removing defects does not mean modifying the wheels in any way, such as shaving off the BSA Pinewood Derby logo, drilling out the hubcaps, or beveling the edges. Any modifications like these will cause Derby officials to disqualify a car at impound. Second, polish the axles by using a low-speed drill and very fine sandpaper, usually 500 or 1000 grit, to smooth out the metal imperfections down to the microscopic level. Be careful doing this, however, as you don't want your polishing to actually decrease the diameter of the nail. Doing so may weaken it to the point of bending or breaking on the racetrack. Third, and what tends to be most forgotten, is to make sure the paint on the car is dry before attaching the wheels. If the paint is tacky, it will cause the wheels to stick to it, even after being graphited. On the same note, placing washers or plastic barriers between the car and wheels to avoid tacky paint is not allowed. The wheel assembly must consist only of the wheel attached to the block of wood with the axle nail. The other source of friction is between the car and the track, and the most common point of contact is the inside of the wheels rubbing the track guide. Car builders should try their best to attach the wheels so the car runs straight. If it drifts left or right, the inside of the wheel will rub against the track guide and slow the car down. One thing to know is that all cars drift, no matter what. What builders will want to do is make sure the drift is not extreme. A rule of thumb is that if a car drifts more than 6 inches after 4 feet of rolling, the wheels need to be adjusted. Parents, do not get overly frustrated correcting drift or it will drive you mad. Seriously, no one wants frustrated parents. The other source of car-to-track friction is the flat of the wheels. This is something that cannot be changed because, as mentioned a few moments ago, modifying tires in any way is not allowed for PAC 736's Pinewood Derby. Resist all urges to narrow or bevel the tires. Derby officials will be looking for this. Now here's another secret tip not to tell anyone. Some derbies have what is called the 4-wheel rule. That means all 4 wheels must be in contact with the racetrack at all times. PAC 736 does not check for this, however. All 4 wheels must be attached to the wood body using axle nails and the predefined axle grooves. But if one wheel is spinning freely, in other words, the car is only sitting on 3 of its 4 wheels, then that is okay. Some builders do this on purpose because they believe it reduces friction. On the other hand, it tends to increase drift, which in turn causes friction from rubbing against the track guide. There is also a belief that 3-wheel cars tend to jump off the track easier. It's really up to the car builder to decide if they want to experiment having 3 or 4 wheels in contact, but be aware of the risk and also that 3-wheel cars may not qualify in other PAC, district, or national races. The third group of tips is all about minimizing drag. Drag is caused by wind resistance, or the pressure of the air against the surface of the car. Just like engineers who design anything that travels fast, like airplanes, bullet trains, or real race cars, builders will want to shape their cars aerodynamically to cause the air to flow over and around them as easily as possible. One question that everyone asks is there a perfect aerodynamic shape for Pinewood Derby cars? Well, according to some websites and self-proclaimed experts, the answer is yes, but they can't decide between 2 options. Those shapes are the wedge and the pancake. More scientific-minded people have looked at this, though, and they have determined that any aerodynamic shape has the potential to be the fastest on any given race day. This is due to 2 factors. First, the Derby track is 32 feet long, which is too short a distance for such small surface variations to be substantially affected by wind resistance. Second, the amount of drag on a car is minute compared to other factors such as weight and friction. That being the case, it's generally accepted and actually proven on PAC 736's racetrack that any aerodynamic shape will improve a car's speed, but there is no proven perfect design. Finally, we get to the last tip: just be lucky. There's no way around the fact that sometimes winning a Pinewood Derby comes down to simple luck. It is impossible to avoid all the things that can affect a car's performance, from the factors already discussed to other unknown forces of nature. The fact of the matter is that when races are determined by hundredths or even thousandths of a second, something as mundane as a person innocently sneezing in front of the track could cause a difference between first and second place. Bringing a little luck on race day is always a good idea. Whether you are a master builder or the luckiest scout in the world, there will be trophy winners and runner-ups at the end of the Derby. Remember at the beginning of the workshop I mentioned one of Scouting's values is good sportsmanship? Do you know the difference between a good sport and a bad sport, no matter how well you raced? Let's look in at a couple Scouts and see if we can figure it out.
I win, I won all the races. You did. I didn't win a thing. I quit.
I don't think they know what good sportsmanship is. On the one hand, we had a Derby winner who was rubbing it in a little bit. It's okay to be a happy winner, but remember the feelings of everyone else who you competed against. The other Scout, who looks like he was the runner-up, didn't do too good either. Not only did he get mad, he let it get the better of him, and he rage quit the race. How do you think either Scout will feel about future Pinewood Derbies? Let's reset the clock and watch the Scouts again to see if they can do better.
Congratulations on a great race tonight. Thanks. Can you help me make my car better? Sure.
That's much better. The Derby winner was happy, gracious, and helpful. Our runner-up was also gracious and took advantage of the opportunity to learn what he could to be a better builder and a racer for the next year. My bet is that both will enjoy competing against each other again. Now you are fully prepared to make a trophy-winning car, at least for speed. In Pack 736, though, we also have our Best in Show contest. Awards and trophies are given out to the best-looking cars, just like a real car show. There aren't many tips and tricks to share about making a car look good, because it's the Scout's creativity that is most important. I do have 2 ideas to share, though. First, there are a few things to remember about painting. You will want to start by using a good primer on all wood parts of the car. This will seal the wood and prevent the wood grain from showing through the rest of your paint. Priming will also highlight any rough areas that still need sanding. Next, apply the base coat. Light colors may need 2 coats, and any type of pearl or metallicized paint usually needs 3 or more. Make sure each coat dries thoroughly before applying the next. This is especially true if you plan to use painter's tape to create designs with different colored coats. Finally, there is the option of a clear coat. Modern high-gloss paints don't require a clear coat, but if the paint doesn't look even, such as a matte color against a gloss coat, then a clear coat can make a paint job look much better. Along with a good paint job are stunning decals. Do you know how to make car stickers using your computer and a printer? It's very easy. Start by having your parents help you find pictures from the internet or create your own using any graphic software. Then scale them down to fit your car. Some software makes it easy to know print measurements, but sometimes it's easier to print a test copy on a scrap piece of paper and adjust the size from there. When the size is perfect, print your designs onto full sheet label paper. It can be found at any paper supply store tucked in among the normal printer labels. Simply cut out the stickers and apply directly to the car. Voila! Instant personalized decals for your car. Now you are fully prepared to build a Pinewood Derby race car. There are a lot of things to think about, so let's review the major steps one time. Before anything else, make sure you have the current year's Derby rules and regulations. There are usually slight changes from year to year, and you don't want to find out about them at the last minute. Next, watch the Awesome Pack videos. There's this one with all the tips and tricks, and a second one covering just what you need to know for car cutting day. The next step is to design your car and be ready for car cutting day. Did I remind you that there is a second video covering just this topic? Make sure to watch it. After your car is built and ready, it's all downhill from there. Pun intended. For Pack 736, inspection, registration, and impound are usually held the day before race day. When you arrive, your car will be inspected for proper parts, measured, and weighed. If it passes, the car will receive a race ID number and placed in impound. From there on, the cars are not allowed to be touched by anyone except the Pinewood Derby race officials, including you. During race day, cars are announced ahead of time so owners can watch them run. Make sure you are at the races your car is competing in. If something happens which requires repairing your car, you are the only one allowed to work on it. If you aren't there to perform the repairs, the car will be disqualified. You may also be asked to identify your car at any given time. Although rare, there have been occasions when this was necessary. Any unclaimed cars at time of inquiry are also disqualified. Once racing is done, it's time for awards, recounting stunning moments, and comparing notes. Always remember your good sportsmanship, though. Then it's time to go home and start thinking about next year's Derby. That's all for this workshop, so good luck and we will see you in the pits soon.